Can the U.S. and Russia de-escalate rising tensions? The United States' relationship with Russia is today the worst that it has been since 1985. Moscow's interference in 2016, U.S. presidential election, and what appears to be its continuing attempt to affect 2020 election campaign have made Russia a toxic domestic issue in a way that it has not been since in 1950s. Its annexation of Crimea and the launch of an ongoing war in southeastern Ukraine, plus its support for Syria's Bashar al-Assad in its brutal civil war, and for Venezuela's Nicolas Maduro have raised tensions with the United States. President Donald Trump came into office determined to improve ties with Russia, but the rest of the executive branch in the U.S. Congress have pursued tough policies towards Russia, imposing rafts of sanctions and expelling diplomats. The U.S. national security strategy declares Russia and China the two top threats to U.S. national security. At the best of times, U.S. and Russia ties are a mixture of cooperation and competition, but today they are largely adversarial. The United States and Russia maintain diplomatic and trade relations. The relationship was generally warm under the Russian President Boris Yeltsin, 1991 to 1999, until the NATO bombing of Federal Republic of Yugoslavia in the spread of 1999, and has since deteriorated significantly. Putin, in one of his interviews, which dates back to 3rd of June 2019, said that the US and Russia relations are getting worse and worse. US and Russia ties remain strained by everything from Syria to Ukraine, as well as allegations of Russian interference in US politics, which Moscow denies. The Russian leader contrasted Moscow's troubled relationship with Washington with what he described it as blossoming ties with China, a deepening strategic friendship that has alarmed some US policymakers. Official contacts between the Russian Empire and the new United States of America began in 1776. Russia, while formerly neutral during the American Revolution 1765 to 1783, favored the US. Fully fledged diplomatic ties were established in 1809. In 1863, during the American Civil War, the Russian Navy Atlantic and Pacific fleets were wintered in the American ports of New York and San Francisco. Some historians credit this visit as a major factor in deterring France and the UK from entering the war on the Confederate side. For many years, a myth persisted that during the American Civil War, Russia supported the Union against the Confederacy. In fact, Russia was strictly neutral. The myth was invented by the American State Department to mislead the British about Americans' potential strength. Russia operated a small fur trade operations in Alaska, coupled with missionaries to the natives. By 1861, the project lost money, threatened to antagonize the Americans, and could not be defended from Britain. In the Alaska Purchase of 1867, it was sold to the United States for $7.2 million in the late 19th century. American public opinion was shocked at the accurate report of anti-Jewish pogroms in the Russian Empire, mostly within the Pale of Settlement. It was a factor as late in the American opposition to going to war against Germany with Russia as an ally in 1917, until the Czar Nicholas II was overthrown in February 1917 and the objection ended. The Treaty of Portsmouth 1905, brokered by President Theodore Roosevelt, ended the Russo-Japanese War. Russia was humiliated by the defeat and Roosevelt was given the Nobel Peace Prize.